Well, it looks like we got Putin pushing the envelope, and I just want to say that a lot more is going on behind the scenes than you think. First off, there's a deal with Wrangel Island, okay? Wrangel Island is out here. He's putting naval outpost on this island out here. That's something that hasn't been done, and it's basically, it used to actually belong to the USA a long time ago, too, but they never pushed the issue back in the 20s, and they gave it up to Russia, even though, now I'm going to point out a couple things about what's going on here recently, though, as I'm playing the Russian national anthem in the background, because I'm going to tell you, though, what they're really dealing with. They think they're dealing with the United States. They're dealing with a lot more than the United States. And it is about global domination and justice for a free world. So the thing that went on here is that there's been 6 Russian jets just recently, and this was per spokesman Navy Captain Jeff A. Davis for the USA Northern Command and North American Aerospace Defense Command. There were 6 Russian aircraft, including 2 Bear H nuclear bombers. Actually, they're not actually nuclear bombers. They're kind of like missile delivery systems from the air. They could be within 3,000 miles of the target. And there was 2 MiG-31 fighter jets and 2 IL-78 refueler tankers being intercepted by F-22 fighters on this last Wednesday in North Alaska air defenses. Okay, now this is actually not a bomber per se, but it's basically a souped-up version of the stuff they took from the United States way back when, but in World War II. But what happens is that it looks like Putin is feeling like the pressure from being backed in the corner, and what's happening is he's basically showing the West that he's got the power to do whatever he needs to do. And recently what happened here is like oil exploration. A lot of it's in the Arctic, and again, this is Wrangel Island over here, where they want to put forward bases. A lot of oil exploration is up in the Arctic area, but what's going on recently too is that the West has cut off Russia from new technology to implement and develop their oil exploration, which is going to hurt them in the medium and long terms. And also, you saw what happened with the price of oil. Of course, you've seen what happened with the price of silver and gold, but it's all the commodities. That's designed to hurt Russia's cash flow greatly, because that's where they're getting most of their money from. The other thing is, Putin actually is now, since he's feeling the heat, it's very unusual that the 15th wealthiest man in Russia, I put this out on another story, has been put on house arrest. His name is Vladimir also, so it's another deal where there's less and less resources go around, and Putin has to have his, income. He'll get it from those around him. So he's making a show of force with these planes. But, this guy, I don't know what the deal is with this guy. He's got some kind of like ego problem, like he thinks he's the Tsar of Russia or something. He may not be like the communist, but he thinks he's a Tsar of Russia, and he's trying to restore Russian greatness. But I have to tell you this. As far as Russian territory, like, in the United States, a lot of people realize there's a lot of open land in the Southwest, and the North and West, and the Midwest, right? Everywhere, right? There's lots and lots and lots of open land. But what I want to tell you, though, is that we have a population of actually 313 million, right? Russia's got a population of 143 million. And I want to tell you this. Their expanse of territory is double that of the United States with less than half of the population. So I don't know what this guy's trying to pull. You see what I'm saying? And what I'm playing now is actually what I originally played there in the background was the Russian anthem. What you're hearing today now is the Roman anthem. Because actually what we're dealing with, Russia's actually dealing with, Rome never died. It was just reborn in the United States. And if you look at the similarities between what happened in Rome, in ancient Rome, and what happens here today in the United States, they're uncanny. We got to look back at that history if we want to survive. I'm going to tell you that right now. Now, in the case of Putin, you know, I don't know what he's been doing, messing around, riding around on horses out in the middle of nowhere. If it was me, I'd be checking up on these troops over here and making sure everything is okay. I don't know what the deal is with Putin. He's always putting on this macho act all the time. I mean, for crying out loud, there's so much good, fine things out there in Russia to be dealing with, and he's got to be out there in the middle of nowhere on a horseback. I mean, he almost reminds me of another version of Obama, but in a different way. So, I have to state this. There's a lot of stuff going on besides even with the planes, though. I'm going to get back to this map. And if you look back here in the Baltic Sea, what Russia's doing right now is they're making new submarines. They're ultra-quiet submarines. They're diesel-electric. They can only go down to 300 meters. They're being designed specifically for the Black Sea. And you know what that's going to be for. If there's any NATO forces up on its surface, they'll be used against them. But I have to state this. A lot of Russians could be turncoats. And see, this is why they deal with the West. You see what happened with that guy that was the 15th wealthiest man in Russia? He got slammed, right? For what? The real reason is, it's just the same reason Putin took Yukos, right? Same reason Putin took Yukos. It's like he's got to have his cut. Nobody around this guy trusts him. So they'll deal with the West. They'll deal with Rome. You know, a lot of people think Rome fell in 465 AD. It actually fell in 1453 AD when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Turks. But it was not that many years later, maybe, 1492, that Christopher Columbus discovered America. And actually, remnants of the Roman Empire were actually ingrained in the tales of King Arthur from the UK. It never died. It never died. It went underground. It went underground and it resurfaced in what we call today the United States of America. So what we are about is empire, and that's what it is. We're dealing with an egomaniac, and he needs to be dealing with his troops. I'd be dealing with these troops. I wouldn't be riding a horse out in the middle of nowhere. The guy's an idiot. But anyway, there's a lot of tales that the MiG-35 is out and everything. The Russia's fighters are going to have a major comeback. But the problem is they really don't have it yet. They don't have it all yet, and they don't have it all freaking together the way they should be. The problem is that a lot of what's going on today is a lot of propaganda coming out of Russia. They got a lot of technology. They got a lot of weapons. But the United States has a hell of a lot more. Now, if you're looking population-wise, the United States has double the population. Way over double. Russia can actually fall apart very easily. The globalists keep Russia together for one reason. It's got a large landmass, and that large landmass is very much part of the plan to be melded into the New World Order. The new empire. That's what's going on. Now, even if you take the population of just the UK and Germany only, it's still a little bit higher than the population of Russia. And those are two countries that actually have the forces that are, when combined, will be a very, very formidable foe to Russia alone. So Putin's playing games in areas he shouldn't be playing games. But the problem is, he's going to take the first shot. When he does, it's going to be a hard shot. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I think they do have a lot of strategic weapons. And the one thing is, what they did when they fell apart, their concentration was on to make look like they're dead, look like they're weak. But what they're really doing is they're ignoring the conventional forces and they're working on the high-tech stuff. Biological and chemical weapons the two have actually melded into one. There's hardly a distinguishable division between biological and chemical weapons today. And their nuclear-tipped arsenal is actually way above what the United States has. That's the problem. It's almost like North Korea. North Korea may be broke all over the place, but they put everything they got into the highest tech weapons. And that is actually what Russia does, and they're not revealing what they have. That's your number one problem. But I think the United States does have a lot more than they're letting on. But the game is empire. I got to tell you, I got to say this to Gerald Celente. fuck you. Fuck you to hell. I never seen a weasel that calls himself an Italian from Italy that sides with freaking people like Vladimir Putin, a czarist dictator, while he's screaming about Wall Street. And what we got going on here is we got people, bigger rip-off artists in Moscow by the name of Vladimir Putin, and others all around him that he rips off. Sharks in his Shark Tank. But I got to tell you this, you know, I wouldn't be against Russia. They got a lot of hot babes, you know what I mean? And, you know, you shouldn't ignore that fact. You know, Putin seems to be like to ride around in his little horsey out there in the middle of nowhere. I don't know why. If somebody that kind of money, I'd be making sure I'd be surrounded by some secretaries that look like this, you know? The guy is a weirdo. That's all I got to tell you. He's a weirdo and a half. He's probably, I don't know what the hell the deal is. He's brainwashed by his own propaganda, probably, for all I know. But when it comes right down to it, you know, if the Russians come over here and invade us, this is the kind of park police we need, you know? Make sure the beer is cold and, you know, everything's working good on the park, you know? So, I have to tell you, though, the deal is, it's not the Russians, man. It's this freaking kook they got running the place. And, you know, that's always been the problem. You know, it never was the Germans either. It was a freaking yo-yo that got in charge with the little funny mustache and some of his cronies. That's really the problem in a nutshell, right? But just remember, the power of Rome has never dissipated. It's always been around. This is actually the symbol of Roman power. The eagle. The eagle was the symbol of invincibility. Does that not sound familiar? Rome is actually embodied in the United States. When we talk about diversity, that's the same thing they talked about in Rome. Diversity. Strength through diversity. Some people have strengths in some different areas. All those go into the power of Rome. It's a global empire. Am I a globalist? In some ways I am. In some ways I am. It's just that I can't stand weasels on a top like Obama. He's a usurper. He's a garbage. He's nothing. We got a lot of freaking weasels on the top. You know, a true leader is somebody that gets in front of the head of their troops and will go anything the troops do themselves. That's not the type of freaking leaders we got with John Kerry or Chuck Hagel or Joe Biden. It's a joke and a half. So, anyway, just want to present this. The Russians are flexing their damn muscles as usual. And it's not the Russians. It's this whack job called Vladimir Putin. But just remember, there's plenty of hot Russian babes, and they ain't all bad. So, it's one way to look at it. Over and out.